Well, guys, you made it to episode 2 of the podcast. And yeah, we're still so early in this that we haven't even picked a name out yet. So I can't even introduce you to what the name of this podcast is, but that's the fun
Maybe
part.
send us some ideas, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, hopefully, fingers crossed by the time this episode goes out, we do have a podcast name. So, fingers crossed. But if you're new here, we're really glad that you're listening or watching. If you didn't check out episode 1, make sure you check it out. We talked all about being omnipresent. And our whole goal for this show is to just bring the community, and by community, I mean pretty much the entire tourism industry, tour operators, other people in the tourism industry. We want to bring us all together and give real, honest value using the experience, the people, the resources we have across WaverSign, Resmark Systems, and Resmark Web. And today's topic, I'm really excited about this one. We're diving into the customer experience in the age of AI. So, why are we talking about this? Well, there are tons of webinars and podcasts and just resources out there talking about AI and how we can use AI to grow our business in marketing and automations and workflows and all of that internal stuff, which I think is amazing. We've created tons of resources just like that. Um, but this time, we kind of want to spend some time zooming out and take a look at it from the customer's perspective. Because when your ideal customer is out there searching for tours, how are they actually searching? Do you know? Hopefully, you do. Are they on AI? Maybe your demographic isn't. Maybe they are. How are they planning? How are they comparing? And ultimately, how are they deciding to book with you? It's so important that tour operators really understand the buying behavior and how it's changed. And Greg, you actually brought up this whole topic because of a recent experience that you had inside ChatGPT when researching a product. I forget what it was, but you were telling me. But why don't we start there? Tell us a little bit about that experience for you when you were in ChatGPT.
Yeah, so Black Friday sales, right? My wife and I needed a new washer, and I was kinda just doing the typical way of searching, typed into Google, like actually, I think I went straight to, like, Home Depot and, some other sites to see, like, "Hey, what deals do they have? What's being offered? What type of dry or washer should I get?" Right? But there are so many options, and there's like, the same washer has, like, various versions. And so I was getting a little overwhelmed of like, how do I choose? I don't want to take forever to choose. I just want to choose one and move on to something else. So then I was like, well, going to use AI. So I hopped into ChatGPT and I asked it something along the lines of like, hey, I need a washer, just a washer. What should I buy? I have a family of this size and gave it some information about myself and my family, right? How often we do some laundry maybe, and it's started spitting out some examples, and then it asked me a lot of times, like, AI will kinda give you answers, and then at the bottom it says, "Do you want me to do this next?" And it asked, like, "Do you want me to, customize this search or something like that for you?" And I was like, "Sure." Click, and I went into a flow that I've never seen before. I've been using AI like this for a couple years now, but I've never seen this specific type of flow where I hit the button and now it came up with kind of like a survey. So it had one question with some options that I could choose from. And like the first one was, how many people do you have in your household? Click the click the range. Are you looking for any specific features? And it asked a bunch of different questions, like probably 5 to 10 different questions. And once I was done with that, then it said, okay, well, based off of your answers and what I know about you, like this is the washer you should get. Or if you value this, like here's some other options as well. And it gave me a very detailed idea. So we ended up going with the one that it recommended. I'm one to like do a ton of research. So I actually went and researched a little bit more and made sure like this is the best version of that because there's so many like variations of washers. But it was nice to really go through that flow where I didn't have to think as much while also getting the information that allowed me to make a good educated decision.
Do you think most of your decision was made in AI or ChatGPT? And then when you said you did like additional research, what did you go to their websites? Like, what did you do for that additional research? Or did you stay in an LLM like ChatGPT?
Yeah, I was all over the place. We had actually started the whole search going to Home Depot and like looking at what they had in person because I'm one with something like that. Like I don't want the loud like metal one that clanks really loud when you shut it. Granted, they're probably the ones that last the longest, but they just I don't know, they seem cheap. And so we were like looking at them, trying to see what we wanted, right? So it kind of started there. So just by doing that, we already had an idea of what we were looking for to an extent, which it's actually the one we bought was very similar to the one we saw and that we were liking at the store. But at the end, I probably stayed more in the you said MLM. People might not know what that means, but in AI, right? I was in ChatGPT, and that's kind of where I finalized everything. I went back and forth between websites though, trying to find like I guess the last step was really going out and finding what is the best deal out there because it was Black Friday. AI was helping with that, but I also wanted to go and verify because I was going to go and buy it from that website anyway.
I think AI for a lot of people using it, which I think the stat right now is 67% of people are in AI. And by LLM, I mean ChatGPT and Gemini and Perplexity, whatever your go-to, AI search tool is. But a lot of people are in there. But I think it's important to realize that everybody shops differently. Everybody, even the same demographic, they might shop a little bit differently. Um, Kind of similar, Greg, and if anybody listening to this has been on our webinars, I've told this story, I've written it in blogs and whatnot, but when I was planning my trip to Kilimanjaro this year, it was back in January, I started the research phase, the buying journey, and, I did everything initially in ChatGPT. I'd say I did about 80% of the research in ChatGPT comparing different tour companies, different safari companies, hiking companies, prices. And then I really created my own project in ChatGPT. And I took that project beyond like the customer buying process. I took it to my actual trip planning and our packing list and everything else. So it became kind of this like my travel agent, which was really awesome. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is I did maybe 80% of the work in AI. And then once I found companies that I was comfortable with, I actually trusted the companies that ChatGPT gave to me because it showed me their reviews and the sources they were pulling from. I then went to maybe about three or four of those tour operators' websites. And then I went to their social medias. And their social media, I always tell this story, is what actually got me over the edge to book. This one tour operator did an awesome job on social media. I messaged them on social media. Anyways, social media is very important. But it kind of went through this process of research on ChatGPT, and then I kind of validated on website and then verified again on social media. So
If you
the
could go
buying
back to that, what was like the hardest, if anything, what was the hardest part of doing it all in AI? Was there anything that was like, I'm not getting exactly what I want, so I'm going to go to their websites and find it, or were you able to find like everything?
That's a good question. And I think that that has something to do with people's different buying behaviors. I'm a very much like, I don't do a lot of research. I kind of just want it given to me. I don't want to think too much. I don't research too much about a product. Price is a concern, obviously, but when you have 10 companies, because you told ChatGPT, I want companies that are all the same price, that wasn't too much of a concern. So for me, it was not a challenge at all because I went to AI because I was lazy. I went to AI because I needed answers in front of me. I think I was off for the holiday. Might have been New Year's Day or something. I was like, I just want to figure this out today and I don't want to have it on my to-do list any longer. Um, but I'm not the only one that searches like that. So I think the
Uh,
point of AI is though it is providing a really, really good user experience for people.
yeah, you
And
said
that's
you were
what
lazy and that's why you went to it. And when I was giving my example with the washer, I probably said something about like I was lazy or I didn't want to read
yeah.
everything, whatever. But one of the real reasons I went there as well is it's hard on websites sometimes to really get the information you want, especially like those type of like washers. It's so hard to get the information you want. You have to open tabs and go and see the product descriptions and all this stuff. So it's really hard to compare them side by side. Whereas AI allowed me to go in and get a comparison, like, it made a table. Here's the comparisons of what's offered, what's not, right? And if I went further and I knew, like, these are the things I really want in a washer, then it would give me a checklist of this washer has that, this washer doesn't, right? It's the same with, tour operations. If I'm going let's say I'm going ziplining and I really like, I grew up we went ziplining at this one place. There was a harness that, like, almost like those, toddler swing sets that you put on so it goes under your legs and stuff, and, like, that was the type of zip line and you sat down on it.
Mhm,
But then I've been on the zip lines where it's like you're hanging,
mhm.
and then I've been on zip lines where you can actually control your speed by, moving up or down or
Okay.
whatever. And so if I was gonna go on a zip line tour, I would, like, know exactly what I want. I wanna be able to go as fast as possible. So I wanna be able to control my speed or just go at the will of it. I don't wanna sit down. I liked when I was hanging because then I could kind of, like, straighten out kinda like Superman and go faster. So when I was if I were to do the search, I would, like, lay out those specifics of which tours, have and maybe I'd have to do some research of, like, what are the different types of harnesses or whatever that are used so that I understand that terminology so that I can then direct AI to say, "I only want tours that do it this way," and that'd allow me to compare them a lot easier and see, okay, this one offers that. You could even ask, like, top speed, right? If that's something they tout, like, I was doing one at Sundance Ski Resort in Utah here, and I think I clocked, like, 86 miles per hour, and, like, that was awesome. So if they list that on their website, then AI can pull that in if that's something that's important to me, and that might be the only one that listed it, and so I'll be like, "Well, I'm gonna go there because it was listed." Even though another site, maybe that you can go 120, um, but they didn't list it, and so it doesn't come up, and so I don't move that route,
Yeah.
right?
AI is a way for you to be a lot more efficient. We don't wanna have a lot of tabs open. We don't want to so do you think we kind of told our stories of how we experience AI, and this isn't just with, the washing machine. This isn't just with a big tour, when you're going on a multi-day hike. This is our life now. Like I'm researching what restaurants to go to in Paris or like just anything in AI. We're maybe a couple years apart, so same generation. Do you think that and, obviously, we're not everybody's demographic. Do you think that most people are searching this way or at least some form of, using ChatGPT or Gemini? Or are there still I know I said earlier, like 67% of people are searching like this or using these tools. Do you think they're searching like us as well?
Yeah, I saw that same stat out there, and I'm curious. I couldn't find the answer to this quickly. Maybe if I did a deep dive, I could. But I'm assuming that that 67% is including people that, like, they search something in Google, their AI view overview comes up, and then they click the button to go dive deeper, right? So they're not I'm guessing a lot of these people are not starting their search in AI like you and I did, right? Um, I don't think most people are going to ChatGPT and, like, starting their search there,
Doing the
but
expensiveness of us, yeah.
yeah, but browsers have it now. AI is built in,
Yeah.
and so they're getting that overview, and they're like, "Oh, that was helpful. Let's click this button and go dive deeper," right? Versus, "Oh, that was cool. I'm gonna scroll down and go click on this website." I think that's what most people are using. Like, I'll use my wife or my parents as an example. They're not searching like this. They're not going to ChatGPT and searching for whatever it is they need. they're typing it into Google. And I think the biggest shift, people are starting to use Google as if it's AI, right? It is now.
Whether they
But
know it or not, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like they 20 years ago, 15 years ago, where you're saying like best tour in Wyoming. You're saying like, I'm going on a trip to Wyoming, to Casper, Wyoming. Like, what's there to do here? And then you're getting that AI overview in Google or Bing or whatever, and you're like, oh, cool, that was helpful. Let's dive deeper. That's my guess on how people are getting into it. So I think there's still a huge population that's not using AI like we've talked about.
Yeah. But it still exists. And that's
Yeah.
why it's important to have these conversations. And I took a look at our clients for Resmark Web. We've set up AI traffic source reports across all of our websites that we've done, including our own, to see how much traffic are they getting from AI? Is that traffic converting? What visibility are they getting? Is AI actually showing them when people ask questions? So I took a look at several of our websites, and what we're seeing is, here's just two websites, for example. Four Season Guides. 19 people came from ChatGPT this month, or I guess we would say all of November. Four of those 19 people filled out a form, and that is their end call to action on the website right now. They're setting up Resmark systems as we speak, but in November, it was fill out a form, they go on a phone call, they email them, they get that tour booked. So that's really interesting. So 4 decently, probably qualified leads out of those 19 that came through. Virgin Island Eco Tours, so in the last 30 days, 84 people came from all of the LLMs. So Perplexity, Gemini, ChatGPT. ChatGPT alone got 79 hits just out of the 84, 79 came from ChatGPT. And that's all across the board. Like, that is, for all of our clients, ChatGPT is the big hitter, right? But anyways, 5 people out of those 84 actually purchased, and they had a total revenue close of $200. So we're tracking all of this through the final like sell. How much revenue are we pulling in from these AI search tools, which is really important. If you're not doing it, you need to make sure you have those traffic source reports set up. But all of that to say is, we're seeing kind of a decently wide range between like 19 ChatGPT AI searches per month to a couple thousand for some of our bigger clients, right? And, a couple $1,000s in revenue, but there's always something. I don't think one of our clients have 0 hits, meaning 0
Yeah.
inquiries from AI. So it's important you are at least tracking this. It's easy to set up. I'll shoot over the how to in our description, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a
Anything that
new like we use tools like SEMrush, there's Ahrefs for SEO tracking and things like that. And there's a new like AI reputation metric in there now as well. So we've had this I'm trying to think of the term right now, site domain authority, I believe is what it's called. And that's always been there of like how, authoritative is your website. Like something like TripAdvisor is going to be 60s, 80s, something like that out of 100. Most sites I see that we're working with are, 50 or below. Um, and so the higher authority you have, the more likely you're showing up as the number one search result, the more likely you're showing up in these, you know, SERPs, that all the different views that Google has. It's the same with AI. So this new tracking allows us to see, okay, well, you're 27 out of 100. That's decent probably right now. Maybe that's bad. I don't know. It's new, so we're trying to figure out like how do we influence that more? How do we know like what is as good as other things? Because a 27, it really depends on your industry or your area. Sometimes that's really good for the keywords that you're going after. But let's say you're a 27 in the AI reputation, that is going to then determine how often you're showing up in AI. That's really what it's saying is how often are you being requested, or how much of an authority do these AI engines like really, see your business and want to utilize the information you're giving?
Let's talk about that for a second. So, authority is huge right now, and it always has been. So many of these core fundamentals, haven't changed. So, what can clients or what can our listeners do to increase that authority? I have some things off the top of my head, such as make sure that you have your FAQs dialed in and you have some really good content actually answering people's questions. So go through your chat widgets and go through the questions people actually ask you on the phone or an email or, when they're in the process of booking, make sure you're answering those on the website. That's really important. The way consumers have changed their, way of searching online is much different. It's very much conversational, natural language, and we want to make sure we're bringing that into the website, not just in FAQs, throughout your entire website as well. Is there anything you want to add to that, Greg?
Yeah. So there's this fear out there right now, especially with what Google's doing, that like websites are going to be obsolete. There was even a conference recently where I think it was a rival, where that's basically what one of the guys said is like your website is no longer important. I 100% disagree with that notion. I wasn't there. I didn't actually listen to it. I got a secondhand story from it, but I think what the presenter was probably trying to say is like the way that you're utilizing website traditionally is dead. You really need to change the way that you build your website from the ground up and how you utilize your website, because the way that AI is using it is different than the way that Google is using it. And there's different, things to make sure you add in. So when I think of websites, like I've been doing this for 15 years or so, and websites used to be like way more brochure filling, right? Like a lot of content, a lot of text, a lot of reading. It wasn't always as scannable, and then we went through this phase in the mid 2010s to, around COVID, let's say, maybe a little bit before COVID and a little bit after, where it was like, cut all your content, make everything so, like, minimal, and there's huge benefits to that in the sense of, like, the user experience is way better, and what that approach was is, like, cut it on the first page, but then allow them to dive deeper, right? So it's kind of that idea of billboard, um, quick ad, and now you're into like the brochure. So you're diving as you get deeper into the website, you're getting more and more information. Um, I think that is still important to have that page structure so that you're telling Google, you're telling all the AIs out there that like, hey, here's my structure, and it's really good and firm around, these keywords or whatever. But I tend to think that more content is going to win out in some aspects here now. Not content just for content's sake and like storytelling per se, but when you think of detailed FAQs, like put 7 FAQs on there or put 100. Like whatever is, if you're getting the same question over and over, I'll use like a multi-day rafting trip. When I went to the Grand Canyon on a rafting trip, one of the most common questions that is asked there is like, okay, how do I use the restroom, right? So make sure you answer that, and there's gonna be different questions of that. Answer it thoroughly, and figure out what are all the other questions that people are asking, and make sure you're answering those. Like, your sales reps or whoever's your guides, like, figure out from the actual people, like, what are you asking? Keep track of it and figure out, like, "Is this worth putting on my website?" Because that's then going to be a question they ask AI that like, FAQs weren't as important in website builds. They've always been helpful and important, but they've only gotten more important because that's how people actually search now. People used to not ask Google a question like they do now. So answering those questions is going to be huge. There's a ton of other stuff that you could be doing on your website structure wise that's going to just really help the consumer find what they need, because if you're not talking about it and your competitor is, they're gonna get prioritized, not you.
I think that that is such an easy win for a lot of tour operators. If you don't have FAQs on your trip pages, if you don't have an FAQ page, just do it. Just create it, put it in an accordion, wrap some schema around it, and it
That's
will.
important. That's important. Wrap schema. If you don't know what schema is, go research it. We're not gonna talk about it here, but that's important because that's what allows Google, that's what allows the AI to really understand, okay, these are FAQs, and this
Yeah.
is the question, this is the answer.
We have a client, Grand Canyon River Expeditions. GCEX.com is their website, but I always type in Grand Canyon Expeditions when I try to find their URL and can never find 'em, like, "Dang it." But anyways, amazing clients. They have an incredible, incredible FAQ, and they build on it every day, I feel like. So I went through all their FAQs the other day because 'cause we're building an AI chatbot for Allison, the client, and so what we did was we pulled their website launched, I can't put a number out there, but a couple months, and we got tons and tons of chats, not from the AI chatbot because we're building that, but just from just normal SMS chat from people inquiring, and we were able to pull every single chat and just get additional questions because there's just questions people have that aren't covered. And yeah, maybe only 2 people in your last 5 years asked that question, but let's put it on your website because your competitor might not be answering that, and maybe a third person this year is going to ask that. You cover it, you come up. If you look at her FAQs, some of them are really funny, but they're detailed. They're like, more private questions and go about going to the bathroom and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is awesome because like when I was going to Kilimanjaro, I had those questions. Where do I go to the bathroom? Like, so it's important that you're answering those questions. Absolutely. The FAQs are really big. Reviews, 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 making sure that you are showcasing your reviews on your website and you're getting reviews. So I know now we're kind of talking about we've shifted into what you need to do to show up in AI. But these are things that you don't need to have a technical background. You don't need to know the ins and outs of, you know, making all of the detailed little things that requires of SEO, but you can easily push for reviews. That is going to help you. You could easily have FAQs on your page. Is there anything else you could think of, Greg? Videos.
Um, yeah, videos, user generated, all of the things we talked in the last podcast really, because that was about omnipresent marketing, like, those are all gonna be things that are super valuable. It's important to also be structuring it properly. There's been, like, a robot.txt out there that you put on websites, for a long time that tells, the robots, like, "Hey, this is what you should not look at or whatever." HT Access does some of that as well, but now there's a new one for AI that basically helps you structure your that document so that the AI can read it in a better format, kinda like a sitemap or whatever, so that it can
So,
read it in a way that makes sense to it. It's really just structured content for the LLM.
so for people listening, they're like, what is that? How do you put that on the website?
So the platform we've built our system on does it automatically.
Okay.
Um, if not, then you need to go in, and it's similar to, where you put robots.txt, you're gonna have that LLM. It's LLMS.txt. That's a curated index for AI that you put on in this, like, the same place, the root directory, um, so that it can, have that clear map of what's valuable content.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, I think to wrap things up here, it's important that you understand the importance of, showing an AI, but is your customer, how are they searching? Are they searching in ChatGPT? Are they searching in Google? Probably most likely they're using some form of AI. So that's where we go back to the basics of how do you rank an AI. Greg, is there anything else you want to add before I close this out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a UX designer. I did that for years. And one of the things that's like pounded in your head as a UX designer is never say I. I do it this way. I do it that way. I've never believed in that because also a consumer of things. And so I think it's always important to look at how are you searching things? How are your friends searching things? How are those around you, booking trips or whatever? Like the next trip you go on, don't book it. Have your spouse book it or have someone that usually doesn't book it do it and like see how just watch how they do it. Or if you have a Gen Z kid or something, like have them book it and see how they do it so you can watch how everyone's doing it differently.
Yeah.
Because like we talked about, 60%, 67% or whatever are using AI at some point. We're all getting there different ways, but I think that's going to continue to change. For example, ChatGPT has a new browser out that is actually really awesome. I love it. ChatGPT Atlas AI is built into it. Gemini is built into Chrome now. And so it changes the way you use the browser, which then changes the way you're searching things. And it's not going away. It's just going to get more and more. And so being an active user yourself, use it for everything and see what's new, what's happening, because that's going to help you with your business understand more of like, okay, well, I did this for, I was looking for pickleball paddle and this is how I searched. That's probably similar to how people are searching for a trip.
Yeah.
Granted, a trip takes a lot more effort, so there's more likely going to go into AI and really dive into it because there's so many questions, especially multi-day trips or multi-hour trips, right? Like so many questions you could ask that are going to just help them. So they're going to end up in AI.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome, Greg. Well, that's a wrap for episode 2. Hopefully, this gave you a clear picture of what your customers are actually experiencing right now as AI becomes part of the buying journey. We'll probably do an episode here soon where we're talking just about showing up in AI. I know we talked actually quite a bit on the things that you could do right now to help, like the FAQs and whatnot, but we'll probably go way into detail on that. So stay tuned. Not sure what episode that will be, but again, our whole mission with this show is to help you stay ahead of these shifts and not get blindsided by them. If you like this episode, share it with other tour operators who you think will get value from it, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss episode 3, 4, 5, and hopefully many, many more to come. Thanks for hanging out with us again. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Nikki.